You know, if our internet connection is everyone's internet connection is okay, we can, you know, keep our videos on like now. But if some people are having problems with the internet connection, then it'll be easier for them to hear everything if we turn, you know, we have less video on. I mean, less of us have our videos on. And then also everyone, it's good to keep make sure you keep your mic muted during the session. So there's not like distracting background noise and stuff. Okay, so thank you all. I'm glad to see you all here again. This is our last of this little 4-session series requested by Ngadi Gatsaling. Yeah, before we get started, I just want to encourage you all to join His Holiness teachings in general online. You know, His Holiness Dalai Lama is giving a lot of teachings, but especially I was just looking at his schedule. On August 25th, His Holiness is giving a talk on compassion in education. And then on September 4th to 6th, over 3 days, from 9 to 10 in the morning, His Holiness is teaching on the 37 practices of Bodhisattvas. So that's kind of a condensed version of the Bodhisattva's Way of Life by Shantideva, right? The 37 practices of Bodhisattvas is by a Tibetan yogi and teacher, Tome Zampo. And it's 37 verses about different aspects of Bodhisattva's practice of Dharma. So His Holiness will be teaching on that, and at the same time he'll be teaching on a short text by Lama Tsongkhapa that's about the Lam Rim, or the graduated path to enlightenment, called the 3 principal aspects of the path. So it'll be good if you can join that. And then, you know, if you have questions or you like to review the material, then Tushita Dharamsala has asked me to lead review sessions on each of those evenings from 5 to 6 in the evening. So you're welcome to also join that. Yeah, so today's session on gratitude. But let's start with, as we always do, with spend a few moments focusing our attention and stilling our mind a little bit, and then generating a positive motivation and going for refuge. To go to Dharma Sangha. So wherever you are, get comfortable in your meditation posture. And then bring your attention to your mind, right? So not pulling our attention away from our sense consciousness and the objects of our sense consciousness. So instead of focusing on things we see, hear, smell, touch, and taste from the outside world, try to focus your attention inward on your own mind. And just observe your mind. The nature of your mind, remember, is that which is clear and knowing. And try to observe this continually emerging experience of awareness, of being conscious, of being aware, for about 1 minute. So as before, then as an aid to generating a positive motivation, to remembering why we're engaging in Dharma practice, then it's very helpful to visualize all sentient beings seated around us. So begin with your father of this life. Imagine him seated immediately at your right, and then imagine likewise all your male family and friends seated to your right and behind you, your grandfathers and uncles and male cousins and friends and so forth. So get a sense of how in this life you're connected with them. And then imagine your mother of this life seated immediately on your right, on your left, sorry, on your left. And then imagine all your female family and friends, your grandmothers, aunts, and so forth, sisters, and female friends seated to your left and behind you. So especially remember their kindness to you. So this is the class of friends. And then next we imagine the class of antagonists. So imagine the people you're most prone to become angry with or tend to dislike. So imagine these people seated directly in front of you, facing towards you. Remember how one especially needs to be mindful to practice being patient with relation to these people, and put special effort into generating love, loving kindness, and compassion towards them. And then finally, so this is the class of antagonists, and then finally we visualize the class of strangers, right? So we can divide all sentient beings into these three groups: friends, antagonists, and strangers. But finally, strangers, think of those who we don't have a special, relationship, with a friendship or family, being a family member or being especially antagonist. But we tend to have a neutral relationship with them, that's not tinged much by attachment or aversion. Right? So think of all the other human beings, all the other animals, all the other sentient beings in whatever form they exist. So imagine them all appearing in the human aspect, in the human form, and seated all around you as vast as space. And imagine them participating in this session together with you. So think of how all the infinite different ways that our lives, in this life, countless past lives, future lives, are interconnected with all of these strangers as well as friends and antagonists. And then remember how all of these sentient beings are just exactly the same as ourselves, in that they wish to have happiness and well-being, and that they wish to be free from problems, from sadness, and from all different forms of mental and physical suffering. Regardless who they are, as long as they're a sentient being like us, they have a mind, they have experience, then by their very nature, they wish to have well-being and happiness, and they wish to be free from suffering. So reflect how we're the same in this way. Or if you have some doubt about it, then investigate, is that true? And then to whatever degree of understanding you have, then reflect how oneself and all the other sentient beings are exactly the same in having the same potential for happiness and well-being of this life, of future lives, the potential for liberation from samsara, and even up to the potential for full enlightenment, right? Which of course entails the potential to be completely free from every form of suffering, displeasure, dis-ease, dissatisfaction as well. So reflect how oneself and all of the sentient beings have the same potential for well-being and the same potential to be free from suffering. So with that in mind, then just try to briefly generate a positive motivation. You can generate it in many different ways. So you can just use your own, your own way of generating a positive motivation, but try to especially, at least try to generate the aspiration that whatever oneself does here, especially in this session, and in general in today and in this life, that whatever we do, it contributes towards bringing about the well-being and happiness of all sentient beings, not only oneself, of course, for oneself included, but as well all, my family, friends, beginning with one's own parents and siblings and so forth, and then broadening that out, friends, broadening that out to other, other human beings, wherever one is, in one's own country, continent, on this earth, wherever throughout the universe, wherever other human beings, and then as well all the animals on this earth, and wherever other sentient beings exist, and even those who harm me, who I tend to dislike. And may all of them, what I'm doing now, may contribute toward the well-being of all of these sentient beings. Right now, immediately in this moment, and then for as long as time remains. So this way of intending for the well-being of self and others is more on the side of love, loving kindness, and compassion. Loving kindness. And then compassion is kind of the other side of more thinking about the suffering side of things. So think about some of the problems oneself and other sentient beings have, some of the hardships we face, and then and some of the continual disease, sources of dissatisfaction and disease that we experience, and then try to generate the aspiration that whatever we do now, in this session and in this life and in all time, may it always contribute towards reducing the suffering and the causes of suffering of oneself and other sentient beings. And then finally, we can, if you like, you can invoke the blessing and the guidance of the three rare sublime ones, the Buddha, the teacher, the Buddha, his teaching, the Dharma, and then the community, the spiritual community of practitioners that upholds those teachings, the Sangha. So you can visualize all of these. The easiest way to visualize is visualizing all of these three, the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha being embodied in or represented by this image of Shakyamuni Buddha. So if you like, you can visualize Shakyamuni Buddha in the space before you at the height of your forehead, about 2 meters distant in front of you, 1 or 2 meters. So visualize his body is entirely made of very brilliant golden light. It's seated on a Dharma throne, teaching throne, upon which is a lotus blossom representing renunciation of worldly desire. And then upon that is a mundus representing great compassion, his wish to free all sentient beings from every form of suffering. And upon that is a sun disk representing his great wisdom, realizing the ultimate nature of all phenomena. So imagine Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, seated there, wearing the robes of a monk, holding a begging bowl in his left hand, with his right hand rested on his right knee, palm face down, the tip of his middle finger touching the cushion upon which he sits. Imagine him looking upon you very affectionately, at the same time being aware of all of the sentient beings. So then, to whatever degree you can, generate the mind of refuge, wishing to be free, recognizing the possibility of more and more future suffering in samsara, both not only in this life but also in future lives, especially the suffering of lower realms, the suffering of all the realms of samsara in general, and then wishing to be free from those, to find a safe refuge and a way of protection, to not fall into states of suffering again and again and again. And then as well, recognizing the power that the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha have to protect us from suffering. So generating faith in their ability to show us a way to be free from states of disease and problems, especially creating problems with our minds. So then with this mind, we can just recite the simplest kind of form of refuge prayer. In English, I go for refuge to the Buddha, I go for refuge to the Dharma, I go for refuge to the Sangha. I go for refuge to the Buddha, I go for refuge to the Dharma, I go for refuge to the Sangha. I go for refuge to the Buddha, I go for refuge to the Dharma, and go for refuge to the Sangha. So then imagine from every pore of Buddha's holy body, white light rays radiate out throughout the universe. On the tip of every light ray is a replica of the Buddha. So one of these Buddhas comes to the space above the crown of one's head, and the same with every other sentient being visualized around you. And then from that body, white light rays like nectar, like liquid nectar light, white in color, flows down, fills your entire body, purifies your body and mind of every form of suffering, and the causes of suffering, negative karma, and afflictive emotions, as well as every sickness, and disease, and so forth. And the same happens for every other sentient being. And then imagine golden light rays flow out from every pore of Buddha's holy body, pervading the entire universe. At the tip of each light ray is a replica of the Buddha. And one replica comes to the space above the crown of every sentient being, visualized in human form. And then from these replicas, then golden light rays, like liquid nectar, flow down, filling the entire body and the mind of every sentient being. with great sense of ease, joy, and well-being, and especially generate in the minds of oneself and all other sentient beings all the realizations of the path, from faith to renunciation, loving kindness, compassion, generosity, patience, wisdom. So imagine one develops every physical and mental positive quality to the highest state of perfection. Okay, so we can stop our kind of preparatory meditation there. So gratitude is our topic for today. Yeah, gratitude is kind of, well, strangely, it's not really, something that you find that is expressly talked about in most Buddhist teachings, although it comes up in many places, in Buddhist teachings. But it's not, it's not like loving kindness or compassion or generosity or patience. It's not one of the, or kind of contentment. It's not one of the sort of attitudes that is talked about a lot, and there's a lot of description of how to generate, how to practice. But it's kind of like one of the attitudes, the fundamental kind of attitudes that's present in Buddhism and probably every religious tradition. But in Buddhism, it's kind of present, sort of all pervasive under the surface. So what is gratitude? Basically, it's an attitude of being thankful, like recognizing the good things that we've received from others, other people, and from the universe at large, from the inanimate environment around us, and our kind of good fortune in that regard. Thinking of all the goodness that we receive from others, whether it be other people or other things or other the situation that we're in, the environment we're in, and then recognizing that goodness and that benefit we've received from things other than ourselves, and being thankful for that, recognizing that and feeling how fortunate we are. So it's a sense of having good fortune, of our good fortune, and it's a sense of a kind of humble way of recognizing that there's so many things beyond just myself that enable my life and enable everything I enjoy in my life to happen. So there's, so you can see it's very broad, and there's so many things that we can be grateful for. And why is it important to be grateful? Because, well, one, just in a kind of very small way, it's just something that makes us happy. It brings so much joy to our mind. The more grateful we are for things, then the more happy we feel. Naturally, when we recognize good things that have happened to us, then we feel happy. And then when we have an attitude of thanks, of being thankful, then we feel connected with others. We feel connected with the universe, and that brings a sense of safety, and a sense of connectedness itself brings a sense of joy and pleasure. And then also, it brings a sense of gratitude. It brings a sense of kind of, what do you say? A sense that we should repay the good that we've received from others. That how can it kind of spurs us to think, well, how can I use my life in a way to repay all the kindness, the goodness I've received from others? So then it naturally leads to attitudes of love and generosity. where we want to, we think, what can I do to benefit others? What can I do to bring something good into the world? Because I've received so much goodness from the world. So what can I do to bring, to give something back, to put out, to use my life to create some benefit for others and to create some goodness in the world. So that, that attitude of love and generosity, wanting to give, wanting to use our life to give, then brings its own kind of satisfaction and inner joy, mental joy. And then also, generating attitude of gratitude, it makes us feel full, I think, as opposed to feeling empty, right? You can see it helps to contrast, with all these attitudes we're talking about in this little 4-part course here: anger, anxiety, and then patience last week, and then gratitude. So it always helps to understand what we're talking about more, to contrast it with the opposite. So what would be the opposite of gratitude? It's quite easy: ingratitude, right? Being not grateful. So we see how, what is ingratitude? It means like not seeing the good we receive from others. So that kind of not seeing the good that we receive from others, we can see how that's related with a mind that's not happy, right? A mind that's kind of feels empty. It feels like, as almost like sad in a way that I haven't received anything from others. Sometimes we get in that kind of state of mind where we think, I have nothing. I have no friends. I have no intelligence. I have no ability. I have no money. I have no no one to turn to. I have no support. I don't have good health. We can easily think a lot of negative ways about ourselves and think like how much things we don't have, especially if we compare ourselves to others who we feel like their life is better, or they're a better person, or they have more good fortune. Then we easily kind of go into a sort of self-pity sort of trip. So that involves sort of not recognizing our good fortune. It all comes back to being an optimist versus being a pessimist, looking at the glass half full versus looking at the glass half empty. So when we're the opposite, so the attitude of ingratitude is kind of looking at all kind of things that we don't have. Which, of course, we don't have everything in the world. We don't have every possible good fortune there is to have. So if we start looking at everything we don't have, of course, there's no end to the list we can make. But by doing that, there are instances when we need to see like things that we don't have and that we want to strive to get. But that's kind of, we look at it in a more optimistic way, in a more realistic way. Well, what can I do to achieve qualities that I don't have? States of well-being that I don't have, of course, we want to achieve. But if we look at things we don't have in a way that's just like we just create more frustration for ourselves and more sadness for ourselves, that's just self-defeating. Then of course that's not helpful. And especially being having ingratitude, an attitude of ingratitude, is not only makes us ourselves unhappy, but it's not fair to other people. Especially think of in the relationship with our parents and our other family members, or with our teachers. With our parents or our caregivers or our teachers, it's clearly the case that people, clearly those are people who've given a lot to us. Our parents, from having given birth to us in the first place, having created us in a way, created this body, given us the opportunity to be in this life, and then having cared for us when we were a small child, an infant. Like there's these days with my classmates here at the monastery, we're studying the life of Shakyamuni Buddha. That's one of the topics we're studying this year. So we're studying a biography of the Buddha, or hagiography. And one of the nice stories about that, probably many of you, if you're familiar with the Buddha's life at all, you've heard of, so correct my pronunciation if I'm wrong, because my Sanskrit pronunciation is really bad, but King Ajatasattu, I think. It's this king, this famous King Ajatasattu, right? Is that right, Chuku? I can see you there. Ajatasattu means something like the enemy who was not born or something. But anyway, this King Ajatasattu, he's the son of King Bimbisara, right? So King Bimbisara was the king of Rajgir, which was one of the most powerful kingdoms at that time. And it's in the current day Bihar, right? Rajgir is now it's no longer, it's just some ruins, but it used to be a really prosperous city in Bihar. And it's where Vulture's Peak is, where the Buddha taught many sutras, where the Buddha spent a lot of time. So the king of Rajgir at that time, King Bimbisara, he was born in the same day or the same year as Buddha. And he's one of the Buddha's most kind of ardent followers and one of the Buddha's biggest supporters during his life. So his son is this King Ajatasattu. And King Ajatasattu, he's like a real warrior, quite violent. He was fighting with a lot of the neighboring kingdoms, actually expanded the boundaries of Rajgir a lot, of the Magadha kingdom. It's called the Magadha kingdom. Expanded a lot during his life. And during the first part of his life, during one part of his life, he followed actually the Buddha's kind of evil cousin, Devdut or Devadatta, who was always jealous of the Buddha. So this cousin, Devdatta, he was a monk, and he actually created the first schism in the Buddhist Sangha. But Devdatta was always jealous. He was Buddha's cousin. They grew up together in Kapilavastu in the Shakya kingdom. And Devdatta was always jealous of the Buddha and always trying to usurp the Buddha's power. He was trying to take over the throne of the Shakya kingdom. And then later on, he tried to take over the leadership of the Buddhist Sangha. And he actually tried to kill the Buddha on several instances. So Ajatasattu, this king, he was the disciple of Devdatta for some years. And together they tried to kill the Buddha several times. And Ajatasattu, Devdatta, through Devdutt's influence, then Ajatasattu tried to, well, actually he did take over the throne of the Magadha kingdom by killing his own father, right? So he famously imprisoned his own father and then starved him to death. Cut off all supply of food to his father, and his father, King Bimbisara, died in prison. So at one point, just before King Ajatasattu's father died in prison, his mother, the king's wife, saw him. So Ajatasattu had a son, right? He was a small boy, like 5-6 years old. And at this time, his son had like a blister on one finger, a bad blister on a finger. And it wouldn't go away. So finally, and the boy was crying one afternoon from the pain, from the blister. So Ajatasattu picked up his son and took his finger into his mouth and sucked on it. Took the son's finger in his mouth and sucked on it until the blister burst. And then he swallowed the pus from the blister or spit it out, I don't know. But anyway, he sucked on the blister of his son until it popped. And then the son was relieved of the pain, right? So as he was doing that, his mother came into the room and saw him doing that. His mother had been trying to save the life of his father, who King Ajatasattu was starving to death. She came into the room and said that, when you were a little boy, your father did the same thing for you, right? When you had a blister like that on your finger at one point, and your father, he sucked on your finger like that to relieve you of the pain. So at that point, then Ajatasattu, he realized how ungracious he was being, how ungrateful he was being for his father's kindness, right? Here he was, Ajatasattu was just thinking about taking over the power of the throne of the Magadha kingdom. And to do so, he was killing his own father and totally being unmindful of, totally forgetting about how his father had raised him, as a child. Right. So then hearing his mother say that to him and thinking how when he was a small boy, like his own son was at that point, how his father had, relieved him, cared about him so much that he didn't hesitate to do something kind of disgusting, right? Taking a blister on his finger into his own mouth and sucking the pus out of it, right? So at that point he was overwhelmed with kind of regret at what he was doing, right? And he sent his attendants to go free his father from prison but it was too late. By the time that his father heard a crowd of people coming towards the place where he was in prison, and he was afraid they were going to inflict further torture and pain upon him. So then his father just relinquished his life at that point and died. And then so his father died before Ajatasattu could apologize, right? So, but that's just an example of how one of the most maybe painful and most obvious examples of ingratitude is when, you know, children are ungrateful to their parents, right? How they don't, you know, when they get older, they just maybe think about getting money or influence, or they just complain about, you know, think about what you know, especially when the parents get elderly, what a burden it is for the children, or they, I mean, as teenagers especially, I remember when I was a teenager, I was totally ungrateful to my parents, but then you would go away and live on my own for a while, and then realize, oh, there's so much, you know, they did for me, made my life so easy, so comfortable, so kind, you know. All the hardship, you don't, when we're maybe a child living at home, we don't realize all the hardship our parents endure in order just to provide us with clothing, with education, with house and food and things. So we easily take, so that's just an example of how we easily take things for granted, you know, from our very body to our education, to our affluence, our kind of wholesome outlook on life, and all the opportunities that we have in life all come from so many things, you know, beginning with our parents and our extended family, our teachers, you know, and so many other conditions. So it's very, I mean, when you start thinking about things to be grateful for, it's just infinite, you know, there's so many things, right? So, yeah, I guess what I wanted, well, let's look at, what I want to do today is just, you know, maybe just do a couple very brief meditations on different kinds of gratitude, different ways, things to think about to generate gratitude. And what I especially want to do is encourage all of you to just try to make it a regular practice, you know, being grateful every day, you know, and spending a few moments, if just spending a few moments every day, a few minutes, thinking of maybe things that we hadn't thought about before to be grateful for, or things we hadn't thought about in a long time, right, to be grateful for, because it has so many benefits. I mean, one benefit, like I was saying earlier, is just it brings us happiness in that very moment. Another benefit is it creates a habit of us looking at being more optimistic, looking at positive things in any situation we encounter, right? Another benefit is it strengthens our sense of connectedness with other people and even with the environment. You know, we just think about how pleasant it is to be able to like hear the sound of birds, be able to take a breath of fresh air, you know, or drink, you know, just drink a glass when it's hot outside, drink a glass of cool water. How you know, we don't have to walk out of our house and go to a stream and then, you know, or pull water up from a well or carry water from a long ways away. We can just turn on our tap and we have water right there in our kitchen. So simple things that we're often not grateful for. If we take time and try to think of those things, it enriches our lives so much. So yeah, that's kind of the aim of this session, is try to encourage you to try to make a regular practice of being grateful, and then think about some of the many different ways to generate gratitude. But before we do a little meditation, I want to share my screen with you and look briefly at this this document that we posted in the chat. So this is not Buddhism at all, right? This is totally from the mental health field, psychology, from University of California, Davis. So it's kind of a review of different studies done on some benefits of gratitude. Let's just look, I didn't highlight here, but we can just look briefly at some of the benefits it lists. Let's see. Oh yeah, just look at some of the kind of mundane benefits here. Okay, great. I think I have to shrink it a little. Clinical trials indicate that the practice of gratitude can have dramatic and lasting positive effects in a person's life. Right? So don't just take it from me. It can lower blood pressure, improve immune function, so strengthen your immune system, promote happiness and well-being, and spur acts of helpfulness, generosity, and cooperation. Additionally, gratitude reduces lifetime risk for depression, anxiety, and substance abuse disorders. Right? So then you can read more later. So here, what I want to focus on just now, because it'll be helpful for when we're meditating, is this kind of a definition of gratitude, some main characteristics of gratitude. Feelings of gratitude are anchored in two essential pieces of information processed by an individual. An affirming of goodness or good things in one's life, and a recognition that the sources of this goodness lie at least partially outside of oneself. Right? So think about, so when we meditate on gratitude, essentially we're thinking about good things in our lives. You know, like I said, from something as mundane as being able to take a breath of fresh air, or being able to sit for a while in a quiet and safe place, to things as profound as meeting, for a Buddhist, maybe meeting the Buddhist teachings, or if you have a guru you feel close to, having met this incredibly inspiring guru or person, or a loved one that you feel close to, maybe your spouse or your children. For many parents, one of the most rewarding and the richest sources of joy in their life is the experience of having given birth to and raising children, right? So from mundane things to the most profound sources of enjoyment, in your life, and meaning in one's life, we can give gratitude for all those things. And then just a final line. So there's the spiritual quality of gratitude. It says, the transcendent meaning of gratitude is widely recognized in the major spiritual traditions, in which thanksgiving, so it's a kind of giving of thanks. Thanksgiving is a worldwide response to life, right? This fundamental spiritual quality to gratitude, which is at the very core of every major religious tradition, is aptly conveyed by strain, right? So this is one researcher. In this attitude, people recognize that they are connected to each other in a mysterious and miraculous way that is not fully determined by physical forces, but is part of a wider or transcendent context, right? So also it's important to recognize like the spiritual quality that gratitude has, where, you think about what is our place in the universe? What is meaning in the universe? What is most meaningful in the universe? How do I use my life in a meaningful way? And how am I connected with others, right? The original, the kind of way by thinking about ourselves surrounded by all sentient beings, right? Family and friends to our right and left, thinking about all that they contribute to our life. And then, all the other strangers, like all the other sentient beings around us, thinking about, how many strangers, people we don't even know, people we don't have a special, affinity for or a special aversion to, how they contribute so much to our life. They build the buildings we're in, the roads we use, the electricity we have access to, the water we have access to, the language that we use, all the books, all the music, all the, aspects of culture, the recipes that we use to cook food, not to mention where all the food comes from. There's infinite sentient beings, from the bees, the mosquitoes, the worms in the ground, the birds in the sky that eat from berries from trees and carry the seeds and then spread this plant life all over the planet. There's infinite sentient beings, animals and human beings, who provide, all the plethora of different details, aspects of life that we enjoy, right? And then even the hardest one, maybe we'll end with, is being grateful for those people who give us a really hard time. We can even generate gratitude for people that we tend to dislike, that we become angry at in the past, that we might become angry with in the future, because they show us our own anger. They show us our own shortcomings. our own lack of patience, and they give us the opportunity to forgive, right? Which is something really important to learn how to do, is to forgive others. They give us the opportunity to generate, love for and caring about another person that is transcendental in one hand, but also is I always struggle for this word, unconditional, right? To generate unconditional love, caring about others that doesn't take into account what they do to me or how they treat me, but is an end in itself. Caring about others because they're like me and that they want happiness and they want to be free from suffering, irregardless of how they treat me or irregardless of how they act. Just because they're a sentient being who experiences suffering and has the potential to have, ultimate happiness, then because of that, I care about them. And because I recognize I feel like as a sentient being, I also deserve, care. I need other people's caring about me, right? So as generating other, especially people who harm us, they give us so much opportunity to grow, right, as a person, and to become more mature as a person, and to see our own faults and overcome them, right? To see our faults, because when we become angry at others, it's due to our faults, right? It's not other people's fault that we become angry. But we need other people to show us the shortcomings that we have, right? Of becoming irritable, becoming impatient, becoming angry. So that's also kind of it's a little more complex way of generating gratitude. So let's, before I just talk away a whole hour and a half, let's do a little meditation now together on gratitude. So I think at first, I want to do a little series of very short little meditations, and then we have some discussion, right? Question and answer for the last 15 minutes of this session. So the first thing, I think, a little bit of meditation, I'll just invite you to just see what is the most easy way and the most natural and easy way for you to generate gratitude, right? So what are the things, why don't you go ahead and before I say more, go ahead and get comfortable in your meditation posture, right? And pull your eyes away from the screen, put your gaze down, and look within for a moment. All right, prepare your mind to meditate. So I invite you first to just reflect on what are the most, when you think of generating gratitude, first of all, what is gratitude to you, right? When you think, well, what is gratitude? So try to, look at what does gratitude mean? Not only what does the word mean, but try to identify, a sense when you have had an experience of gratitude, right? So what is gratitude for you in your own experience? Try to get some sense of the definition of it for you, its characteristics, its entity. And then try to think of some examples of gratitude. And so what kind of gratitude, or gratitude for what kind of things comes most naturally and most easily to you, right? So think of some examples of when you've been very grateful in the past, or also in the present moment when you think of things you're grateful for, things that when you think of, perhaps other people's kindness to you, or fortunate circumstances that you're in, or some memories that you have. So what kind of things, when you think of those things, do they naturally give rise to a sense of gratitude in you? And then I invite you to think, how can you expand your sphere of gratitude, right? How can you expand the things for which you're grateful? Either, more people, other people whom you don't ordinarily think of, how they benefit you. Maybe, more family, more friends, or even strangers. Um, so how can you, or also inanimate things, in the environment, the air, the water, the vegetation, food, um, animals, and so forth. So try to think of some ways you can expand the sphere of your gratitude to reach more things and more sentient beings and more things. Mm. And then finally, I'd invite you to try to kind of challenge yourself by trying to think of, so especially think of strangers or even antagonists, people whom you tend to dislike, whom you're prone to become irritated with or angry at, who you might try to avoid. So try to think of, creative ways that you can even generate gratitude for these people, right? So think of the more difficult, especially people, to generate gratitude for, and how you might be able to generate gratitude towards those people. Yeah. So especially remember how I spoke a little bit about how, such people give us opportunity to practice forgiveness, to practice patience, to practice generating unconditional love and compassion, and so forth. Okay, so we can stop the meditation period there. So if you have any questions or comments, then we can have a little discussion now for 15 minutes or so before the end of the session. So I wonder, how did it go? I mean, did you find some ways you saw that you could try to kind of expand your sense of gratitude? Charu is trying to say something, I think. Teresa, can you unmute Charu?
to unmute herself. Unmute yourself, Charu. Charu, unmute yourself. Yeah.
You have unmuted it?
Yes, we can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. So I did the gratitude part of it, some of it. And I could manage to feel gratitude for everything.
Everything. That's a lot.
Yeah, I try to put everything into it. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
How did it go with people who you find, irritating or annoying? Those difficult people. Could you find ways to? Could you authentically kind of find ways to feel grateful for them?
Yes, I did. I did a gratitude meditation for my cook, and my cook and I are always fighting. So it's a highly tough. So then
But your cook gives you your food every day, so.
Yes. So I did a gratitude meditation for other antagonists also. And I have a question disconnected with this.
Sure, yeah.
Like,
everything is okay.
In the beginning of when we started the session, we did a meditation with a lot of visualization of light, the Lord Buddha, and all that. What do people do who have a different guru or come from a different tradition? Do I get confused, or what do I do?
No, just put your guru in the Buddha's place and do the same thing.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
I'll do that next time.
Yeah,
this time I got confused. Yeah.
No, basically, I mean, I use the Buddha because I have to pick one. No, I can't use every one in one meditation. So, I mean, I'm a Buddhist monk. There's a Buddhist center, so we use the Buddha. But you could use Jesus or Krishna or Muhammad or whatever. I mean, basically, the idea is that whatever is for you is the embodiment of the highest potential. The highest potential. Highest, most positive qualities. You utilize that, and then.
I use Guru Nanak Sahib, the 10 gurus, whichever one turns up. Yeah.
Sure, yeah, can do. Yeah. I mean, because basically, whoever's our guru, our kind of role model, our refuge or inspiration, they in our worldview, they have the ability to have a very positive effect on us. So those visualizations with purifying white light and then golden light blessing us to develop all. That's just a way to kind of enhance that kind of relationship with that being.
Yeah, strangely enough, we have a whole concept about gratitude also, but it's a little different. In Sikhism, gratitude is towards the guru and towards the tradition and towards the God, the concept of God, God being everything. Yeah. And also to your family and your friends, and like quite similar to the Buddhist concept. Little different.
I mean, in Buddhism also there's a very strong this attitude of gratitude towards your guru. Right? Actually, in the Lam Rim, it's kind of one way of laying out the Buddhist teachings as a path of practice. That's actually the first topic, is to think about the kindness of your guru and generate gratitude towards your guru. And then also towards to the Buddha and the larger Buddhist teachings. But the way I was talking about it here, I wanted to make it kind of, more secular in a way that's applicable to any kind of religious tradition. Yeah. But it's true. It's an attitude I think all the religions, all the different faiths share, a sense of thanks. I think that's part of it being, a sincere, practitioner of any religion or spiritual tradition is really being, I think if we're really sincerely practicing any of our traditions, whether it's Sikhism or Hinduism or Christianity or Buddhism, we should find that we're becoming more grateful. I think that's a good measure of if we're really practicing. If we're really becoming more grateful for, for our gurus, more grateful for just our family, more grateful for our friends, more grateful for, our life, more grateful for, the sun in the morning, everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
did
also, one thing that occurred to me while we were meditating is how much gratitude is related to having a kind heart, being kind-hearted.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, like the Dalai Lama often says that, you know, my religion is kindness. Like that's another essential spiritual quality that you should
Yes.
see in any kind of one who's a valid spiritual teacher in any tradition, is that
Yeah.
they're just really kind. And to me, I think the more we generate gratitude, the more we naturally become a kind person. You know, it
Yes.
just naturally gives way to kindness.
Yes, I
Yeah.
agree. But Lama,
Okay.
I have one question, Legtsok.
Hold
Lama.
on, Chatter. You've used up 2 of your question points already. I need to give other people options.
Oh, okay.
If there's no more questions, we'll come back to you. Okay. Yes. Suresh, can you unmute yourself? Suresh, you need to. Okay. Now I can hear you. But I can't hear you. Maybe can you unplug your your headphones? Then I think I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you a little.
See, basically, I tell you that
Hold on, Suresh, I still can't hear you well enough. I think maybe there's something wrong with your headset. Can you just unplug it and speak directly into your phone or laptop? Now speak?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, much better. Now it's much better. So what's your question?
Yeah, what I wanted to say that the Westerners have inbuilt, like, right from the beginning, they are taught to appreciate people, while we people here, even though we know, but we do not, it does not come very obvious to appreciate or thank somebody.
Uh-huh.
That is one part. Second one,
Yeah.
when I start visualizing the people whom I antagonize, I really don't see anybody with whom I am really having very serious relationship, and I do not know how. I mean, at that particular moment, I might be angry with those people, but over a period of time, I don't think I am so angry or they are the antagonist people or something like that.
And that's good. Yeah. Well, okay. There's 2 things. First of all, yeah. I mean, I try to be wary of generalizing about Westerners versus Indians. Like, I don't really know. I mean, it's true. I notice, like I live here in this Tibetan kind of society, right, in the monastery, and I know. I mean, even in India too, I find there's not the habit of like thanking people so much. You know, like in the West, you go to a store and you buy something, you thank the person. You go to a restaurant, they serve, and the waiter gives you your plate of food, you say thank you. You just say thank you like all the time. So there is that, whereas in like Indian society and Tibetan society, there's not this thing of saying thank you all the time. But I'm not sure that really indicates like a difference in gratitude. It might, but I mean, it's oftentimes, you know, you go to a shop like in the US and, you know, you buy something and they say thank you, but you don't get a sense that they're really thankful. They just want you to come back to their shop. So they say thank you. You know, they say something that's going to make you feel good. Right? So sometimes it's just smart salesmanship or just kind of being polite. It's not necessarily really being grateful. But sometimes it is. I mean, there are, I mean, yeah. Whereas, I don't know. Anyway, I don't know. I'm not sure. You have to check. You know, we can each check in our own experience. But whatever the case, it's definitely, I mean, I hope you can all see the importance and the kind of the benefit of trying to be, you know, generate more sense of gratitude. How helpful it is for oneself, and how good it is for one's relationships with others, and how good it is to make a contribution to society. I mean, talking about one way to give something back to society is just practicing gratitude and being a role model to others, you know, for being grateful is something that can really help others. I mean, that's one way of helping people. It's just to be grateful. I mean, also when think about when other people are grateful to us, that's another way to meditate on gratitude. Think how it affects us when other people show their gratitude towards us. You know, it helps our self-confidence. It encourages us to try to do something to help people again in the future. I mean, think how the opposite, when we've done something to help other people, and then they totally take it for granted, they're not grateful at all, then we kind of feel like, what's the point? You know, it totally undermines our enthusiasm to try to help people again in the future when people don't show any appreciation. So when people show some appreciation for something good that we're doing, it encourages us so much to do that again. You know, it gives us so much energy and confidence and encouragement to try to do more to help other people. So the same, when we show our gratitude to others, it has that effect on them. So it really has a beneficial effect on other people and in the world. So I think in that way, gratitude is really good. But then your second question was what, Suresh? I forgot.
I said I really do not find anybody with serious antagonist type of people, you know.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's something to be grateful for, I think. That's really good.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, yeah, oftentimes when I'm leading that visualization on thinking about the friends, antagonists, strangers, oftentimes, I mean, it's the people that we love the most, the people that we're closest to that we tend to get irritated with sometimes, like our parents, our siblings, or children, and so forth. So we can visualize the same people in both places. And the thing is, it doesn't have to be that there's one person that we consider them fundamentally like just bad or an enemy, or that's why I try to stay away from that term enemy. I mean, sometimes that's also used, but and it even doesn't have to be a person who's fundamentally antagonist, but maybe it could be an aspect of a person or a certain behavior about a person. Basically, we're trying to identify things that trigger us to become upset, trigger us to become impatient, trigger us to become angry and annoyed, and recognize that we have these kind of triggers, and that other people, certain behaviors that other people, the way they speak to us, the way they think, the way they talk, or the way they act, it triggers us to become angry, right? So we want to identify those things and recognize these are the things I have to work on being more patient with. And these are the things I kind of have to learn to see in a different light, that I don't become upset and it doesn't destroy my caring about other people. So we want to try to perfect our loving concern for others, regardless of what they do. And we all have obstacles, to doing that. So when we visualize this antagonist in front, it's kind of way of recognizing the biggest risks, the things that really are the biggest risk for us to become angry, and try to reduce those.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Suresh. Okay. Any other questions? The rest of you can turn on your videos if you want. Our internet connection seems to be good. Okay. I don't see anyone else. On the count of 3, it's back to Charu. 1, 2, 3. Okay, back to you, Charu. Oh, Jill, someone else start to say something?
Yeah, actually I can't put on the.
You have another question?
Yeah, can you
Can
guys
you unmute yourself again, Charu?
Yeah, we can hear you.
So I'm sorry I'm not able to put on the video, but there's a network issue. My question is like, for some reason, during this pandemic, we've been hearing a lot of people talking about gratitude, right? So whether it's in my workplace, so this is something very unusual that I experience. Like in my workplace, suddenly everybody is talking about let's practice gratitude. When we talk offline also, you will keep seeing videos talking about gratitude. All of a sudden there's so much of message coming out, which is saying like, oh, we need to have this practice of gratitude. But my feeling is like, why it was never there before? Like, why all of a sudden we're feeling now it is so necessary for all of us to realize that the gratitude is so important. Like tomorrow, I'm just scared, like if pandemic is over, does this stay or will it just disappear again?
Yeah, well, I can't predict the future. I hope it will stay, of course. But to answer your question, why? Can you think of for example, have you ever been really sick in the past? Like had a fever or been bedridden for a few days?
Yes, many times.
Yeah. So at those times, did you feel like you could, were there any instances where you were like really sick, for instance, and then it kind of helped you be more grateful for something simple things that you weren't grateful for before?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, if you take that small scale, because I think sometimes when we're really sick, like we're grateful for just like, you know, having a good night of sleep. You know, if we haven't been able to sleep well for a few nights because we have fever or headache or stomach ache,
Yeah.
and then we get a one good night of sleep, all of a sudden we're really grateful for that. Whereas before we just take for granted, or just taking for granted being able to have the energy to get up and walk around. You know, when you can't do that,
Yeah.
then you're great. You know, when you're sick and you can't, you know, just talk, you don't have the energy to talk, or you don't have the energy just to stand up and walk to the kitchen and get a cup of tea or something. Then even those really simple things, which we just took for granted before, all of a sudden we're really grateful for very simple things.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, on that small scale, then on a world scale, it's like we're experiencing a global sickness. You know, as a global community, we're all sick in a way, right? So I think it's kind of having the same effect is my sense that, you know, there's so many things like just being able to, you know, go visit a friend without having to worry about, you know, giving them COVID-19 or contracting COVID-19 ourselves, or being able to walk around in public spaces or go out to a restaurant. There's so many things that we can't do now that we took for granted before, that all of a sudden we're just naturally, really grateful for those things.
Yeah.
And I think it'll last. I mean, I don't know. Again, we always have to start with our own experience.
Yeah. So my question is tilted more towards, so we understand like we are grateful for a lot of things even before pandemic, but what I wanted to, you know, really understand is it all of a sudden everybody is talking about it. People who never used to even feel that way suddenly has started talking about it. That is what I'm trying to say. Like, this is something I always felt in my practice whenever I used to do that. But then, you know, I'm saying all of a sudden from pandemic, I can see my friends talking about it. My, you know, everybody close by, even workplace is talking about it. This is what I'm trying to say. And I wish it would last forever is what I'm trying to say. Like, you know, and it's a very
Well, how can you
and
contribute
it's very challenging to foresee that, because even for myself, I know today I might be very grateful because you asked me to meditate, be grateful, but tomorrow I might not be having the same attitude towards that person again. You understand? So it's like
you have
that.
to do the meditation tomorrow again.
Yeah.
That's why. No. It's not difficult. I mean, you know, in many studies done on gratitude, one of the most effective ways to help people, basically, I mean, it's a matter of habituation, right? Which means we have to do the thing again and again and again. And so in many studies, one of the most effective ways to generate the habit of gratitude is journaling, actually. You know, taking a little space in a little notebook, and every day sitting down. You know, for many people, it's difficult to sit down quietly, you know, and meditate. Like that just doesn't happen naturally. But for many people, it's easier to sit down and write, you know, write journal, you know, about like writing a diary or something. But you can make like a little gratitude diary. Just sit down and make a little list of things, you know, 5 things you're grateful for today. So in the process of just writing those things, naturally you think about it, you know, you think about it, you bring those to mind. And then, I mean, all of these kind of mental exercises, whether it's meditation or journaling or even exercise, you know, physical exercise or reading. I mean, whenever we use our mind, it's also activating our brain. So there's neural pathways that are activated. And, you know, there's a saying among neuroscientists that neurons that fire together wire together, right? Neurons that fire together wire together. So it means when you're thinking about gratitude, meditating gratitude, journaling on gratitude, you're causing different neurons to fire in the brain related to different things. But those neurons, they create networks, right? And the brain really works through the activation of different networks, not individual neurons. So the more we activate, it's like muscles in the body. The more we exercise different muscles in the body, the stronger they become and the easier it is to use them in the future. So the more we bring to mind and try to put some effort every day into generating gratitude, it becomes easier and easier to do. It comes more and more naturally. And when we do it, it becomes more and more powerful. So it affects our mind more. And then, like I said, I mean, each of us as an individual person, we're like us, in relation to other people in our workplace or in our family or in our neighborhood, we're like a cell in a body, right? So our action, it naturally affects other people around us. So if you want to see other people in your workplace, having more gratitude in the future, then try to make it that a practice yourself, and then, talk about it. Talk about things you're grateful for in just conversations, around at the coffee shop, or, in casual conversations. And in your own reflection on things, talk about how you're grateful for things, and that naturally will encourage other people to have that kind of outlook.
Thank you. Very helpful.
Okay, thank you, Chinna. Yeah, very helpful question. Yeah, it's also important, when we're thinking about gratitude, to really think about the doubts and the kind of, sometimes we have a cynical mind, or, kind of skeptical attitude. Is this really beneficial? Is this really any good? And we should also, sincerely look at those kind of doubts and address those. We don't want to just candy coat everything, like, well, everything's good, I'm grateful for everything, everything's so nice. That's also not realistic. Like, we need to have a very realistic, balanced view of things.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I can take one more question. If there's any more questions. Okay, Charu, you're back. You have one more question, Charu? Unmute yourself. You have to unmute yourself, Charu. I can't hear you yet. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can, yes.
Yes, I had a bit of a situation yesterday. I'm planning a holiday going to Delhi and visiting with my son and my parents.
Okay.
My parents told me that they live in a joint family with my brother, and they told me get tested and come. So I said, I've already got tested in July. I'm going to get tested when I come back to Guwahati. How many tests am I going to do? But they were scared.
Well, just do it. I mean, it's your parents, they make a humble request to you to get tested. I mean, a lot of time has passed between July and now. You could have easily been infected.
Yeah, but
It's not an unreasonable request.
I got most angry for being asked to get tested, and
Why?
it upset
Why did you
me
get
so
angry?
much. I was whole day upset. I couldn't do anything because I was upset.
But why were you angry? I mean, what were you angry about? Because of the personal inconvenience that will, it
No,
causes?
because of being told to get tested to come home,
Is it like your parents telling you to do something as you're just a little girl and you don't know how to act or something?
Yeah, it seemed like a strange request to me. Yeah.
Well, I mean, generally anger always arises from being self-centered, being kind of a selfish attitude, like thinking what I want, what I don't want. I mean, anger always arises from attachment. We want something to be like this, or we don't want something. That we could be attached to having something, or attached to not having something happen. Right?
Yes.
Having something happen or not having something happen. So you're probably just, I mean, maybe, I don't know. There's some difficulty involved with getting tested again, some expense for sure, some inconvenience. So you're probably.
It's a big ordeal, all right, going through a test.
Yeah. And that little, you have to put that cotton swab way down your nose. It's not comfortable and all this.
Yeah.
So you're attached to like not having all these inconveniences. Because if you didn't mind, if you didn't really care about having all those inconveniences, there would be nothing to get angry about. No? So you get angry because you're attached to not having all those little inconveniences. So then when they ask you to have those, then you react with, they're saying something against what you're attached to, right? So underlying that is this selfish concern. So try to be more concerned about your parents. I mean, the elderly, they live in a multi-family home. They're probably, I mean, they've been in Delhi. I mean, think how many people have been in Delhi. What a dangerous time it's been to live in Delhi in the last 3 months. There have been so many deaths, so many infections. So try to really put yourself in their shoes and think, oh yeah, I mean, I can, and think, I mean, what a wonderful opportunity it is for you to just be able to endure some hardship in order to bring some peace of mind, to your parents.
Yes.
Just do it.
just difficult.
But it's only difficult because of your mind. You know, the difficulty is not coming from your parents. The difficulty is coming from the way your mind is reacting to that
Yes.
situation.
Yes.
So as soon as the sooner we see that and we change, you know, gradually we can change our mind, right?
Yes.
We can't change the way other people behave, but we can change our own mind. And then, you know, if you change your mind in the way it relates to this one situation, then when a similar situation arises in the future, you'll have less reaction, you'll have less difficulty for yourself, and your life just becomes more and more easy and more enjoyable for, you know, for you.
What
and then for
actually
your
made me
husband and for your
happy
children.
was this feeling I got that maybe they don't want me to come, you know. So my brother
Yeah, but
is more
don't go
scared.
there. I mean, why entertain those kind of doubts? It's just
Yeah,
a
so I
simple
said
stuff.
I'm
Don't
not
make a
going
big drama
there.
about it.
I'm just staying in Delhi
Yeah,
with
just
my friends.
yeah. Sometimes those thoughts might arise, but we don't need to make life more complicated than it already is.
Yeah.
Just leave those kind of doubts instead of just dismiss.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just our silly thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, Chadha, we should stop here though. We're already gone over time.
Okay.
And
Okay.
people
Thank you.
Thank you, Legtsok. We just, if we are
families
finished
to
with it,
take care
we would
of and
just,
things.
can we request,
Thank you.
before you go in with the dedication, I would just request Chuku to say a few words of thanks on behalf of Nari Gatsaling.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay. And let me do dedication.
Before dedication.
Okay, before dedication. Okay, so Chuku.
Yeah, can everyone hear me? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
All right. Firstly, I would like to, on behalf of NGL Center, thank Legtsok from deep within our heart for these extremely beneficial sessions. 5 sessions I think we've had, and I've attended 4, and extremely enriching. It's always great to connect with you, but yes, these precious teachings we'll keep in our heart and hopefully in notes, which of course have been shared by you and by the center. And in spite of you being so busy, you've given us your time, and we really are so grateful for that. Also, I would like to thank all the participants who have given time to these teachings. Well, it's for your benefit, so it's good that you join, and thank you for that too. And all the teachings imparted by Legtsok are available on YouTube. So if you all want to go into YouTube and, you know, recheck and have a revision of whatever's been taught, you can do it over there. And for any queries that you have, or if you want to ask any question, you can go directly, you can mail to NGL Center, center with TRE, not TER. So nglcenter@gmail.com, which I think Fariza Allah will share. And lastly, but most heartfelt, Bhaskar and Fariza from the NGL Center. I think they make life so much better for getting us connected to people who can give us such precious words of inspiration and thought. Thank you so much to everyone in Legtsok. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Chuku. Thank you.
Thank
everyone.
We can do a short dedication. I think that's important.
Yeah, we'll do a short dedication now. So first, we rejoice in all the merit we've created. So during this session, during all the last 4 sessions. So rejoice in one's own effort and the efforts of all the other participants who've taken time out of their busy lives to spend time reflecting on Buddhist teachings with a wholesome motivation. I think how wonderful it is. And then especially we can reflect on the kindness of Shakyamuni Buddha, and from Shakyamuni Buddha down to our present gurus, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and our gurus of this life, and think, what great effort they've put in for countless eons from life to life of practicing and teaching this path. And we can also rejoice, especially those of this life, how wonderful it is, what merit, great merit they've created in practicing and teaching the path. And then we can also rejoice in all the wonderful work, spiritual work and service offered to humanity by countless other gurus of other spiritual traditions for many generations, and also now in this current time. How much benefit they bring to the world. And then think about all the other ordinary sentient beings like ourselves who help each other in small and great ways from day to day. Parents and teachers and neighbors and all different kinds of roles, the things people do to benefit one another from day to day, and even other sentient beings, animals, and so forth. Think how excellent it is and rejoice. Then we can think this vast ocean, oceans of merit, infinite oceans of positive energy and merit. Then we dedicate, first of all, that all sentient beings are free from every form of suffering, especially the immediate sufferings of hunger, thirst, loneliness, depression, sickness, and also the mental sufferings of anger, fear, anxiety, worry. We think of all the human beings on every continent of Earth, wherever they exist throughout the universe, and then all the animals, and then even beings of the hell realms, Ghosts, Deva realms, and they all be free of every form of suffering. And the causes of suffering, afflictive emotions, and karma. And then all sentient beings have every form of well-being and happiness. From having food, clothing, shelter, companionship, having joy in their minds, access to education, employment, sustenance, every form of sustenance, both physical and mental, spiritual. Not to mention all the realizations on the path after full enlightenment, especially gratitude. And all sentient beings have all these forms of well-being and happiness and the causes of this. And all of our future, in this life and all of our future lives, may all of our actions not cause the slightest harm to any sentient being whatsoever, but only provide benefit. And not only ordinary benefit, up to the highest benefit of the happiness of this life, happiness of future lives, the nirvana, state of freedom from samsara and full enlightenment. May we give every form of benefit to all sentient beings, and may all of our actions only contribute towards that. And then may all of our gurus have long and stable lives. May the Buddha's teachings flourish in the world for infinite time into the future, especially Nadi Datsaling Center, Buddhist Center for Mind Science in Guwahati. May it continue to flourish and receive all the supportive conditions it requires now and in the future in terms of volunteers, financial support, a place, a space to have teachings and so forth. And especially in accordance with the Holiness Dalai Lama's wish, may the Buddhist teachings, but not, and especially the ancient Indian tradition of mind science, whereby showing all beings how to develop kindness, loving kindness, compassion, patience, generosity, wisdom in their minds in a secular way. May it flourish once again in the land of India, its origin, and spread throughout the world in a way that's accessible to people of all different systems of belief, whether religious or non-religious. And then also may all the global climate destruction be reversed. The human species may learn how to be responsible stewards for the natural environment on this planet. And then everywhere, especially in Tibet and other places, may the good religious and political freedom, especially in Tibet, may the Buddhist teachings flourish once again. And may the Tibetan people be free from oppression by the Chinese communist government. And then please take a moment and bring to mind anyone you'd like us to pray for in your own circle of family and acquaintances. Anyone who's sick or died, has recently died, or is in other ways experiencing problems at this time. So then we pray for all those people to be free of any problems that have and quickly have a state of lasting happiness, loving. Maybe we can end with these verses of dedication that His Holiness Dalai Lama usually uses. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space, just like space and the great elements such as earth. May I always support the life of all the boundless creatures for as long as space remains and for as long as sentient beings remain. Until then, may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Okay, so let's stop there. Well, thank you all again.
Thank you, Legtsok. Thank you very much.
Again in the future.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Welcome.
everyone.
Thank you. Hope
Bye.
for such sessions soon enough, Fariza. Please organize.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Lektokla. That's Raima's head. That's Raima's head.
Okay.
That's Raima's head. Yeah,
Is that your daughter, Chuku?
yeah, that's the younger one. Please bless her.
Okay.
Please bless her so that she becomes better from what she is.
Okay. Bye-bye, everyone.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
thank you so
Bye-bye.
much. Bye,
Thank you, sir.
everybody.
Bye.
Leaving. Yeah.